Hello guys, it's Chunks. We're here doing another Beyblade discussion. So this is another one of those videos where I just kind of sit back and talk, so it's one of those videos where I don't interact with the camera, so if you want to put this in a background tab, feel free. Anyway, so recently we had a kind of leaked product list talking about some of the new Beyblade X products. This should be Season 2. Season 2 should be October, and this goes from October through January, so I thought it'd be fun to make a prediction on what these bays could be. Before anything, let's go and run through what the products actually are before I get to the predictions. So first up for October, BX37 is a new stadium set. Also UX08 is a starter. November, BX38 booster, UX09 start dash starter, whatever that is. And then UX10 customized set. December, we have BX00 booster, UX11 starter, and then UX12 random booster volume 5. And finally, for January 2025, we have UX13, a booster. So, with all of that in mind, what could these bays possibly be, right? So, very, very slight spoilers for the anime and manga. Right now, Persona and Pendragon are fighting. I don't think that's like any bit of a spoiler, honestly, but yeah. So as of right now, one of the battles is done, one battle is, well, inconclusive, and then the other one hasn't happened yet. So I'm not going to say which is which, but I think Bird, will win his first battle. I guess that's one of the ones we don't know yet, but I think Bird will win his first battle. And I think one of the other two battles, the one that is not concluded yet, will be a tie. And I know technically if it's a tie, they should probably battle again, but I just think they won't. It'll be inconclusive for plot convenience. But anyway. The reason I mention this is because it has to do with the bays I think will be chosen. So obviously it'd be a tie, meaning Persona and Pendragon will have like a rematch eventually. Before that we'll probably train a bit, and that's where I think we're going to get some new Persona bays. Now, the start of Season 2, I think having a new Persona bays would make a lot of sense. So starting off with the October stuff, the Stadium set, I think that's just going to be recolors, so it doesn't really matter much, but the starter. I think the starter will be Hells. It'll be a second UX Hells. I think this is a pretty likely one. Now, I could be completely wrong here, by the way. This could be, like, hilariously wrong, but this is just what I think it'll be. I think logically it makes sense. Also, keep in mind, we've gotten a lot of reused motifs, and, like, we get them pretty consistently. Of the 19, or of the 29 bays we've gotten so far, not counting remakes, from the start of Beyblade X up until September next month, there's 29 bays and only 19 motifs. And keep in mind, as the series goes on, they'll probably get lower because obviously they have to introduce some of the more common motifs, like Drawn and Hells. I mean, those are always going to get evolutions and whatnot, so I think over time we're going to be seeing a lot of like evolutions or side bays or whatever we're going to call them in Beyblade X. So I think this isn't too unlikely to have a lot of them. Anyway, now, why do I think Hells is going to be the starter? I think first up, Drawn got a lot of folks in Season 1. I think starting in Season 2 with Hells would be sensible. But also, I think it has to do with the launcher, which I'll get to when we talk about the November stuff. But I think this would just be a normal launcher, which would make sense for Hells. So Hells starting off things in October would make sense. Now, November, we have a lot of bays in November, alright? So, there is the BX booster. I want to come back to this one. We'll start off with the UX things first. So first up, the Start Dash starter. I think this is going to be like a special starter. I think it'll have to do with the launcher. I think this will be a sword launcher, or at least Beyblade X's equivalent to a sword launcher. And obviously that'd be paired with the sword bay, or the bay, like always has to do with some kind of blade, sword, dagger, buster, whatever. A new drawn, a second UX drawn, paired with a sword launcher, or whatever equivalent they call it. For early Beyblade X Season 2. That seems pretty likely to me. I mean, who knows what the Start Dash starter actually means, but, you know, this is just my assumption. Next up, we have the customized set. Customized sets in Beyblade Burst. Well, I guess in DB and BU is like one bay plus a bunch of parts with enough to make a second bay, but I think this will be kind of the original version of a customized set where it's just 4 bays. Recolors could be anything, honestly, but as far as the new bays go, I think the first one will be a UX version of Knight. Obviously, if the new characters, or if the Persona characters are getting, you know, new bays, it makes sense for Malty's second UX bay to be a UX Knight. Also, last year in November, Bird and X, they both had their bays in sets, so now this year Multi gets hers, and so that makes sense, I guess. But as far as the second bay in the set goes, because usually with the 4 bays there's 2 new bays, I think the other one will be a UX Shark. Shark's a pretty popular motif, and of course Maiden is affiliated with Persona, and if I'm correct on there being kind of a training arc for early Season 2, I think it would make sense for her to be involved. And I think her getting a UX Bay, yeah, I mean, that's reasonable, I would say. And she was a former pro, so I could see it. Now, a lot of this theory actually hinges on the BX booster that I mentioned earlier. I think this is going to be another wizard. I think, here's the thing. Having one BX product, or one actual new BX product, new Bay, that's just strange. I don't think this would just be a random Bay. I feel like it has to be affiliated with the team somehow. And I think it by far would make the most sense if this was Maltese Bay, because if we get a UX Knight, then Wizard and Knight both have their UX Bays, great. But that means that there are 2 BX Knights and only 1 BX Wizard. Well, that's an issue, so obviously you'd probably want to give her a second BX Wizard. And this would be how they do it. You know, you get the 1 BX Bay here just to make sure the motifs are balanced. I think that makes a lot of sense. So Wizard here, I think, is a decently likely option, assuming that Season 2 starts off with Persona Bays. Now, moving to December, there is, of course, that BX00 Bay. So, fun fact about these product lists we get, they've never shown BX00 products for, like, normal limited edition releases, like the B4 stuff, like the Blue Shark Edge, or, like, Rare Bay Get Battle stuff, like the Gold Leon Claw. These are never listed in these product lineups. The only BX00 releases so far that have been listed are actually remakes, so this has to be a remake. There's 2 options. The first one is Xeno Excalibur. Of course, we got Lightning Eldrago for September in a random booster select. So they could do Xeno Excalibur here since it was another contest winner. However, I think that'll be saved for next year, like early next year, probably another random booster select like Eldrago. I think this is going to be CLS. I think we get the other Bakuten Shoot, like the other main 4 Bakuten Shoot bays before Dragoon. Well, of course, we got Dronzer last year, Drigger earlier this year, and then Drasil at the end of this year, and then, of course, Dragoon is going to be March, as we already know. So I think CLS is a pretty solid option for this release. If not Xeno Excalibur, but I'm still leaning towards Drasil. And now we get to the other bays. This is the hardest to actually assume, but I think it's going to be the Pendragon bays again. Assuming I'm right that there is a tie of sorts, they have to do a rematch. This is probably where it would be. This could also just be a brand new team, but I think Pendragon's pretty likely here. Also, I mean, come on, we're going to get a UX Cobalt eventually. That has to happen, I'm sure, and wouldn't doubt them just giving every member of Pendragon a UX Bay. I think that seems decently likely. So first, of course, the December starter, UX Cobalt, that makes sense. And then for Random Booster Volume 5, a UX version of Black, and then the January 2025 booster, a UX version of Weiss. These could be switched, honestly. But I just put them like this because this is how they were. This is like the exact same setup as we had back in June and July for the Pendragon bays. So I decided to just kind of mirror that here and go with it. So anyway, that's kind of how I think they'll do it. I think this is a pretty solid prediction list. The only downside is that there are absolutely 0 new motifs, but based on how we've kind of been getting bays, I'm kind of thinking that this isn't overly unlikely. I think in future seasons, it'd probably just be Persona bays, and then, whatever other bays, happen after that. I don't think it'll be like, a bunch of reused bays, like a bunch of older motifs at the start like this. But I think, again, UX Pendragon stuff would be earlier Season 2, probably, so those are our predictions for that. Of course, after this, February, probably like a random booster select or something. That's probably going to be a new motif, just for the sake of getting out a new motif. And then, of course, March, probably CX, probably a CX drawn in Hells and either Wizard or Knight. And then, of course, after that, probably some, new motifs after. Probably a lot of new motifs, just to, actually give out some, new ones, since there are already a lot of reused ones here. But, yeah, it looks like for Beyblade, Beyblade X, it seems we're going to get, a new system midway through a season. and then that system with the previous one, it's kind of like 50-50, which, on which ones we get, and then of course, by the next season, that newer one kind of takes over. Because BX kind of seems to be getting phased out here by the fact that there's only 3, and one of them's a remake, the other one seems to be just a recolor set, so only one actual new one, I think, which is what I think will be a new wizard. So anyway, hopefully that makes enough sense. Yeah, I'm thinking that early Season 2 is just going to be Persona and Pendragon stuff again. But of course, all UX bays, which would be pretty cool. I wouldn't really mind this. So yeah, those are my predictions for early Beyblade X Season 2. I might do this again for the next list we get later this year for February through May, if it happens. So I guess we'll have to wait and see for that. Also, we'll see how I did for this prediction. We'll know about the result of the Pendragon versus Persona battle probably the next few days, and then after that, next month we'll see what the October bays are, so we'll see if I can even be close to being right or not, but, well, I guess we'll wait and see. So anyways, that's all for this video, so thanks for watching, and bye-bye.